In previous lecture, we have seen that if one of the player has two courses of action available to him and another player had more than two courses of action available, then the player having more than two courses of action available will is bound to choose only two courses of action out of many available to him, and that led us to what is called as method of sub game, right? But there was some problem in method of sub game. What was the problem? If the number of courses of action available to other player goes on increasing, the number of sub games to be solved also goes on increasing drastically. There is drastic increase in the number of sub games to be solved, and after solving those many sub games, what is to be done? You have to select one sub game according to which player has to make the choice. All right. So the method becomes laborious as the number of courses of action available to other player goes on increasing. So the way out for from that is a graphical method. If one of the player has two courses of action available and other player has more than two courses of action available, okay. So if you handle that problem by graphical method, then the labor is not to the extent required in subgame method. So we will be seeing in this lecture how to solve the problem by graphical method, right? So here is the problem. Player A has got two courses of action available, A1 and A2, and player B has got five courses of action to him. And if we solve this problem by method of subgame, assuming that this game doesn't get reduced by dominance principle, you are left with five courses of action available to player B. Then 10 subgames will have to be solved, right? 10 subgames will have to be solved if you solve this problem by method of subgame, okay. But in graphical method you don't have to solve to that extent, okay. The philosophy of graphical method is just to represent this game on graph paper. Now, how to represent this game on graph paper? So, player A has got two courses of action available, A1 and A2. So, what we'll be doing, we'll be drawing two vertical lines, one for representing A1 and another for representing A2. And in between these two, there will be one horizontal line which will be indicating the proportion of course of action A2. Just look at the graph. I have already drawn it. I'll be explaining from the graph which I have drawn. Right? Both the lines are vertical, perfectly vertical. Okay, in your video you might see them converging like this, but they are actually vertical. All right. This line is for representing A1 and this for representing A2. What of A1 and what of A2, that we will be seeing soon. Right. And there is one horizontal line which is labeled as proportion of course of action A2. Okay. Now this proportion of course of action A2 is just scaled as marked at 0, 1 by 4, 1 by 2, 3 by 4, and 1. We are increasing the proportion of course of action A2 from 0 to 1. So when it is 0, it means that you are purely playing A1, and that's why this is labeled as A1. Okay. And if the proportion of course of action A2 is 1 by 4, that means for A1 it will be 3 by 4. If the proportion of course of action A2 is 1 by 2, that means for A1 it will be 1 by 2. And if the proportion of course of action A2 is 3 by 4, then for A1 it will be 1 by 4. And if the proportion of course of action A2 is 1, then for A1 it will be 0. That means in that case, purely A2 will get played. So these two lines are for indicating the gain. If one of the if purely A1 is played, then the gains are available on this line, and if purely A2 is played, then the gains to player A are available on this line. Now, by seeing the minimum and maximum extent of the gain to player A or loss to player B. In short, you have to find the minimum and maximum value. Minimum value is -5 in this matrix and maximum value is 8. So what you do, you mark the mark on this line, you scale this line from minimum of -5 to maximum of 8. Okay, so I have marked the gains on this line same way I have marked the same gains on this line as well. -5 here, -5 here too, -4, -4, 8, 8 here. All right. Now, how to represent another data given in the problem on this graph. So just look at this. If player B plays B1 and player A plays A1, then gain to player A is -5, loss to player B is also -5. Okay, so I have marked -5 here, and now if the player A plays A2, that means this line. Okay, this is the line indicating this is the line for A2 play of player A, and this is the line for A1 play of player A, right? So if player A plays A2 and B still plays B1, then gain to player A and loss to player B equivalently will be 8. So 8 I'll be marking on this line. Now, I join this line from -5 to 8. This is the gain line for player A if player B plays B1. Why? Because as the proportion of course of action A2 goes on increasing from 0 to 1, the gain to player A will increase from -5 to 8 linearly. Okay, the gain to player A or loss to player B will change linearly. Okay, there is no reason for this line to be non-linear. Okay, so gain to player A will increase from -5 to 8 linearly if player B plays B1. Now if this is understood, we can discuss about another line. For example, if player B plays B2 and player A plays A1, gain to player A will be what? Gain to player A will be 5, right? And if player A plays A2, gain to player A will be -4. And in between, as the proportion of course of action A2 goes on increasing from 0 to 1, the gain to player A will go on changing from 5 to -4 along this line. So this line again is called as gain line to player A. If player B plays B2, likewise, we have drawn another line. Now simply you mark this value on this line and this value on this line, right? 0 I have marked here and -1 here. Join the line and labeled it B3. This is the gain line to player A if player B plays B3. Likewise, -1 to 6, -1 on this and 6 on this. Join it by line, then 8 and -5. 8 on this and -5 on this. So everything in this table is represented on the graph, right? Now that we have represented this table on the graph, but just by drawing two vertical line, one horizontal line, and joining these values on the graph, we have represented the table on the graph. Now we'll go on putting the questions as the proportion of course of action A2 goes on increasing. Suppose say it is 0. It is 0. That means A1 is purely getting played, and when A1 is getting played, what course of action will be selected by player B amongst these 5? Okay, and now as usual we know that player B will be selecting that course of action which will result in minimum loss to him. So B will be selecting to play B1. Okay, B will be selecting to play B1, but man, by doing that, gain to player A is -5 and loss to player B is again -5. Alright. Now, player B has the control, player A has the control of changing the proportion of course of action A2. So, what player A does, player A goes on changing the proportion of course of action A2. It increases to 1 by 4 and player B still continues to play B1. Okay, because in playing B1 only, player B finds that there is lesser loss as compared to playing any other course of action. So player B still continues to play B1, but what is happening, loss to player B is increasing and gain to player A is also increasing. Okay, so the player A is increasing the increasing the proportion of course of action A2. So this is the domain, this is the zone of the gain to player A and loss to player B. Okay, till this point, what is happening? Player B will continue to play B1. Okay, and loss to player B will go on increasing, and B is helpless because A is increasing the proportion of course of action A2. Now this point is reached, proportion of course of action A2 is somewhere here. After this point, if the proportion of course of action A2 is increased, then player A will no longer play B1, because by playing B1, the loss to player B will increase more than the loss to player B by playing B3. So after this point, player B will start playing B3. It will switch to B3. Okay, it will continue playing B3 till player A increases proportion of course of action A2 till this proportion. As you are seeing by my direction of the pen, till this proportion. I don't plot a line there, but you can just understand. Now after this, if the proportion of course of action still increases, player B will switch to play B2. Player B will switch to play B2. It will no longer play B3, because in playing B3 there is more loss to player B. Okay, player B always will be playing that course of action, playing which will result in lesser loss to player B. So player B will be continuing to play B2, right? And after this proportion of course of action A2, okay, player B will be playing B5. All right. So this we call as play zone for player B. What is the response of player B? Which course of action will be selected by player B in response to changes in proportion of course of action A2 is visible to you from this dome. Okay, you don't have to do this much. When you will be solving this problem, soon you come to know that player B will be playing B1. If player A plays A1, you come to know that this will be the play zone. Okay, but I took this chance to explain you all the dynamics of switching of the courses of action by player B in response to changes in the proportion of course of action A2 by player A. Okay, so soon you come to know that B1 will get selected. This is the zone of play of player B. Okay, now the question is, uh, where will A stop? Where will A stop? At which point the proportion of course of action A2 will be settled. It will be settled at this point because A is also intelligent. A wants A wants to maximize his own gain, and A point that by settling at this proportion, player A will be getting maximum gain. If after this point the proportion keeps on increasing, the gain starts falling down. Okay, even though this is the zone of play for player B, player A takes his own decision based on the maximum point, based on the maximum point of this dome. Okay, and the maximum point is this one, and this is the intersection of what? B1 and what is this? B3. Course of action B1 and B3. So this is what was required by player B. Which two courses of action will be selected by player B is obtained. Okay. The courses of action selected by player B are signified by the lines intersecting. The B1 and B3 is intersecting at this point. This is the highest point of the dome. So player B will be playing B1 and B3. Right? You got that game which is important. You got that sub game which is important by graphical method, which you would have got by solving 10 sub games in method of sub game. Just by drawing a graph and reading it properly, you got the sub game. Okay, B1 and B3 will be played, B1 and B3. Okay, so you just copy the values from this P of matrix. For B1 column, those are minus 5 and 8, and B3 column, this is 0 and minus 1. You solve this game, that's it. Okay, for solving this game, you take the difference and write it here, minus 5 minus 0, 5. Here you don't have to find out minimum guaranteed gain and maximum possible loss. If at all it was required here. I haven't done that, but now let's do that. Means when you will be starting to solve this problem, you must do this process first. So minimum from this row is minus 5, and minimum from this row is again minus 5. So maximum is this minus 5, and maximum from each of the column is 8, 5, 0, then 6, and then 8. Okay. What is that? Minimum amongst all this is 0, right? So the game doesn't have saddle point. So whatever you are doing makes sense. Okay, it makes sense only if the game doesn't have saddle point, right? And you've also come to know that your game value must be lying between 0 to minus 5. Okay, so here the point was, here you don't have to find out the whether the game has saddle point or not. All right, here you don't have to do that because game doesn't have saddle point, that is established. Okay, so this game also won't have saddle point, because finally the solution to this problem has to be a mixed strategy, and that will come from here. So minus 5, 0, 5, and 8 minus minus 1. What is that? 9. So you sum this two and put that in denominator, 9 by 14 and 5 by 14. Okay, do this different, find this difference here, 0 minus 1, 1, and minus 5 minus 8, 13. So make the sum 1 by 14 and 13 by 14. So game is solved. Okay. And because this is the only game deciding game value, you also find that. Okay, so what is that? 9 into 4, 9 by 14 into 0 plus 5 minus 1 into 5 by 14. So it comes to be minus 5 by 14. Now lastly, how to write the strategy for A. A has only two courses of action, and we know in the proportion in which that is getting played. Okay, so the proportion is A1 is getting played 9 by 14 times, A2 5 by 14. That's it. And player B now call each of the course of action in sequence. B1. B1 we know it is getting played once out of 14 times, means very less times. B2 is not getting played because it is not in this game we have selected. B3 is getting played 13 out of 14 times. B4 is not there, B5 is not there. And game value we have already found out, minus 5 by 14, and we knew very well that game value will lie between minus 0 to minus 5, and this is lying between that. Had this been outside the bounds, there would have this solution would have been wrong. Okay, so this is how the problem is solved by game theory. Okay. Instead of explaining this problem once again in short, I'll be taking another problem on graphical method. But that in that problem, player B has got two courses of action and player A has got many courses of action. Might be one, two, three, four courses of action. Okay. So we'll be seeing that problem, and by seeing that problem, anything which is left to be understood in this will be understood by that. Okay. Um, all right. So here is another problem. Player B has got two courses of action, B1 and B2, and player A has got four courses of action. And now the payoff values are given here, 6, 5, 3, 6, 8, 4, 7, 1. If I want to find out solve this game, by graphical method, I will first be finding the range in which the payoff is changing. The payoff is varying between minus 1 to 8. So I will be drawing two vertical lines. Now this time they will be labeled as B1 and B2. Okay. In earlier problem, those labels were A1 and A2. Why? Because the player A has got two courses of action available. Now here player B is having two courses of action. So those two courses of action are labeled here, and here proportion of course of action B2. Okay, proportion of course of action B2. Okay, which is varying from 0 to 1 by 4 to 1 by 2 to 3 by 4 to 1. As the proportion of course of action B2 is increasing, proportion of course of action B1 is decreasing. Right? So here purely B1 is getting played, and here purely B2 is getting played. Right? Because the proportion of course of action B2 is 1 here. Okay, and as far as these vertical lines are concerned, these vertical lines are labeled from minus 1 to maximum 8. Okay, minus 1 to maximum 8 linearly they are labeled on both the side, on B1 axis and on B2 axis. Okay, so this is the first skeleton formation for representing the data, this data on this graph. Okay, that skeleton is you need two axes and one horizontal axis. This two axes will be for the player who has two courses of action available. All right, and horizontal will be indicating the proportion of course of action, here in this case B2. All right. So now, if player A plays A1, then the last two player B changes from 6 to 5. On this line, you will be marking 6, and on this line, you will be marking 5. Alright, so you will be joining the line with line from 6 to 5, that line indicates that the last to player B changes from 6 to 5 if player A plays A1. Okay, you can say that gain to player A changes from 6 to 5 as well. Whatever is the last line to player B is also the gain line to player A. Right? And then 3 6 in A2 row you have value 3 6, so 3 you mark on this line here and 6 you mark on this line here. Okay, because 6 is the entity element available in B2 column, so that must be marked on B2 axis. Okay, so 3 6 we have joined, and this line we have labeled as A2. When that signifies if player A plays A2, then and the last to player B will be changing from 3 to 6 as the proportion of course of action goes on increasing from 0 to 1. Then likewise third line 8 to 4, 8 here and 4 here. So join that with a line. Okay, and lastly 7 and minus 1. So 7 on this and minus 1 on this. And join it. Okay, now after joining, you have represented all the data which exist in this table in this graph. Now this graph will reveal some things very easily to you. Okay, now you will put a question that if the proportion of course of action B2 is 0, what A will be doing? Which course of action A will be selecting? And obviously A will be selecting that course of action, selecting which will gain maximum to A, will result in maximum gain to A. So you will be finding maximum value for that, and this is it. Player A will be playing A3. 8 is maximum. So player A will be playing A3. Okay. But B doesn't stop. What B will be doing, B will go on increasing the proportion of course of action B2, knowing fully well that gain to player A will go on reducing. Okay, and that will help in reducing his own loss. So this is the zone of play for player A. All right. This is the zone of play for player A. Till this point, till this point, as the proportion of course of action B2 goes on increasing, player A will continue to play A3. But after this point, player A will switch to play A1. Okay, because in playing that, gain to player A will be maximum within that proportion of course of action B2. And after this point, player if the proportion of course of action B2 increases, player A will continue to play A2. Okay. Now the control is in the hands of player B. Player B is changing the proportion, and it won't just go on changing, it will be that proportion change also has to be stabilized somewhere, and it will stabilize at this point. Okay, because player B also looks his own loss into the gain of player A. More the gain to player A, more is the loss to player B. So B will be settling at such a proportion which will result in minimum loss to player B. Okay, minimum loss to himself means minimum gain to player A. Okay, here player B is in command. Player B is in command. Player B is changing the proportion of course of action B2. It will definitely settle at this point, and this point is the intersection of two lines. One amongst that is A2 and another is A1. It is the intersection of A1. Okay, this line is A1 and A2. Okay, so among these four courses of action, which two will be selected, A1 and A2? In nutshell, I will be telling you after plotting this graph and indicating all the line. You just question what will be selected by other player if the proportion of course of action B2 is 0. Okay, B2 is 0 means A has to make a choice and A will be making better choice, maximum gain choice. So here, so you got to know that this will be the play zone, and if the upper is the play zone, then bottommost point will be the game settlement point. If lower is the play zone, then the topmost point will be game settlement point. So this is the game settlement point, and you just find out which two courses of action are intersecting at that game settlement point. So those two courses of action here are A1 and A2. So you just put the values 6, 5, 3, 6. All right. This is A1. This is A2. Once again I made a mistake, and that you may also make, not that big mistake, but you must find MGG and MPL, minimum guaranteed gain, because this all makes sense if the game doesn't have saddle point, and that you have not checked. All right, so minimum guaranteed gain here will be 5, here will be 3, here will be 4, and here -1. Maximum among those all is 5, and maximum possible loss here is 8, here is 8, and here is 6. Minimum among those is 6. So game doesn't have saddle point because these two values are not equal. But we know that game value will be lying between 5 and 6. If this game doesn't have saddle point, this also will not be having saddle point. Okay, so here you need not check for it for existence of saddle point. You straightway proceed, solve it by arithmetic method. You find the difference here, 3 minus 6, 3, and 6 minus 5, 1. So it goes like 3 by 4 and 1 by 4. And here this difference, you 5 minus 6, 1. You have to write positive value here, and 6 minus 3, 3. So 1 by 4 and 3 by 4. All right, 1 by 4 and 3 by 4. Clear? So these are the proportion. Finally writing the strategy for player A. Player A plays A1 in 3 by proportion, A2 in 1 by proportion, 1 by 4 proportion, A3, A4 he is not playing. So 0 for that. Player B plays B1 in 1 by 4 proportion and B2 in 3 by 4 proportion, and there are no other courses of action. What is the game value? You do any one computation of sum of the product, this multiplied by this, or this multiplied by this, or this multiplied by this, or this multiplied by this. So what is it? 15 by 4 plus 6 by 4, that is 21 by 4 is the game value. 21 by 4. All right, the game is solved. Right, by it is very easy to solve the game by graphical method, provided one of the player has two courses of action available, then only you can use graphical method. Right, now if you know that game doesn't have saddle point, and it can be solved by graphical method, there is no need of reducing the game by dominance principle, because if you don't even reduce the game by dominance, for reducing the game by dominance principle, what I will have to do, I will have to compare each column, each row with another row. So here you see that I'll be comparing this with this with this with this, then this with this with this, then this with this. So many comparison I have to do. Okay, I know very well that this row is getting, you can eliminate this row, because this is lesser, 7 is lesser amongst 8 and 7, and -1 is lesser than 4. So I can eliminate this. But for reaching to that elimination, I have to travel a lot, means I will be doing so many comparisons. Instead, I prefer to draw a line 7 1, like I have drawn here. 7 and 1, 7 and minus 1. I have drawn here. Okay, drawing a line takes very little effort than eliminating that row. So there is no need of reducing the game by dominance principle if you have decided to solve the game by graphical method. But one thing you must make sure that for solving it by graphical method, there must be two rows or two columns in the game. Two rows or two columns, right? Might be initially you have 4 by 4 game. By dominance, it ends up in 4 by 2. Okay. But once you have decided that after reaching to 4 by 2 dimension of the game, should I further reduce it? There is no need if you are solving it by graphical method. Okay, so I hope you have understood this method. There are few more things to discuss here. This problem particularly we have solved by subgame method also. Okay, so there are some more things which I'll be discussing. This line you are seeing, it is nowhere coming into picture in my play zone. It is well suppressed. So your graph also tells you about the dominance. This is dominated by some other course of action. You can very well see that A3 must have dominated A4 because all the way A4 is below A3. So dominance you get to know in graphical method also. Not only that, if the line is coming down and intersecting, for example, A1 and A3, line A1 is going down and A3 is also going down, and they are intersecting at a point, then it is sure that if you solve the game between A1 and A3, it will have saddle point. I'll just show you that the game has saddle point. We have already solved this problem by subgame method, right? I'll show you that A1, A3 subgame has the saddle point. All right. So just look here, the same game we have solved by subgame method, and here is the game with A1, A3, and it has saddle point, and that is signified in graphical method by the two lines going in one direction and intersecting. They may go up. Some of the line may go up and intersect. If the line is going, one line is going up and going up like this, okay, or the line is coming down and another is coming down like this, then there is a saddle point in between these two courses of action. Okay, your graph, if the lines are coming going up and intersecting or going down and intersecting, then though the two courses of action indicated by this line, the game formed by that will show saddle point. All right. So dominance existence of saddle point is signified by graph. Okay. So that is graphical method, but it also has the limitation, and you know that. What is the limitation? Limitation is graphical method can be used only if uh, one of the player has two courses of action available to him. Otherwise, if any of the player, minimum number of courses of action available to any player, if it is greater than two, then you cannot use graphical method. Okay. But all in all, you have understood graphical method. So far, what we have seen pure strategy. For that, you have to find out whether the game has saddle point. If the game doesn't have saddle point, then we try to reduce the game by dominance principle, and if it gets reduced to 2 by 2, or already if it is 2 by 2, we solve it by arithmetic method. Okay. If it doesn't get reduced to 2 by 2, but one of the dimension is 2, one of the dimension, either the number of rows or number of columns are 2, then we either solve it by method of subgame or graphical method. Now the question arises, what if the size is not m by 2 or 2 by n? Say it is 3 by 3. Then what? Okay. So we'll be seeing how to solve 3 by 3 game. Okay. How to solve. So here I have the problem 3 by 3 solution of now there is very simple method, again extension of arithmetic method is applicable to 2 by 2 and we are extending that method to apply to 3 by 3. Okay, and that method is called as augment method. So what I'll be doing here, I'll be taking the difference between b1 and b2 and then b2 and b3. Just look here, b1 minus b2 and then b2 minus b3. All right, so let's find 4 minus 1 3, 1 minus 3 4, then 3 minus 1 2, and 1 minus 6 is minus 5. Then minus 3 minus 4 minus 7, and 4 minus 2 6. Okay, same thing I'll be doing here, a1 minus a2 and a2 minus a3. All right, so 4 minus 3 1, 1 minus 1 0, and minus 3 minus 6 minus 9. Then a2 minus a3, 3 minus 3, that is 6. 1 minus 4 is minus 3, and 6 minus 2 is 8. Okay, so for understood, taken the difference between two rows and the b1 and b2, then b2 and b3, here a1 and a2, a2 and a3. Now I will be writing the determinant value at the odd place. For example, ahead of a1, I will not be considering these two values, and what remains I will be finding determinant value of that, and that is called as augment. Okay, so augment, here I write augment, right? What is that? 2 minus 5 and minus 7 6. What I did, I have not considered the row difference values ahead of A1. Remaining I have considered in the determinant. Okay, so what is this value? 12 minus 35. 12 minus 35 is minus 23, but I have to write here 23 only. All right, then augment here. Okay, I will not be considering this value. The rest matrix I write 3 4 and minus 7 6. So this value comes out to be what? 18 plus 18 plus 28. 18 plus 28 is 46. Am I right? 6 3 is 18 and 28. That is 30, 46. And then lastly, the augment. I won't be considering this. This value will be forming the determinant for me. And what is the determinant? 3, 4, 2 minus 5. The value goes minus 15 minus 8. Minus 15 minus 8 minus 23. So I'll be writing 23 only. Okay, I have to write absolute values there. Now here again I'll be forming the determinants, right? I won't be considering this value because this is called as augment. So you just have to ignore the values below the column and take the determinant of other column differences. that is 0, minus 9 and minus 3, 8. Okay, so what this comes 0, this is minus 27, so 27 simply here, right? Don't consider this, write another 1 minus 9 and 6, 8. All right, how much that comes? 8, this is 8 plus 54. 54 plus 8, 62. Okay, am I wrong somewhere? I'm sorry. Open 54. 8 plus 54, 62. And lastly, this determinant. So the last determinant is coming because of these two columns. Just excluding the values in this column, you write the determinant for the columns remaining. So 1, 0, 6 minus 3. Find the value of this determinant. Minus 3 plus 0, simply 3. Now what you do, you make the sum. 23 plus 46 plus 23 comes equal to 92, and here 27 plus 330 plus 62, 92. So if both the sums match, then this method is valid, otherwise not, right? So the proportions of course of action B1, B2 and B3 are given by 27 by 92, 62 by 92 and 3 by 92. Whereas the proportions of course of action A1, A2, A3 will be obtained by putting 92 in the denominator of each of these values, right? So 23 by 92, 46 by 92 and 23 by 92 will be the values. So those I am going to write in strategy. Okay, so here is that strategy for A. Okay, strategy for A is going to be 23 by 92, 46 by 92 and 23 by 92, meaning that out of 92 times average 23 times A1 should be played, 46 times A2 and 23 times A3 will be played. And strategy for B, all right, 27 times B1 will be played out of 92 times, 62 times B2 and 3 times B3. Okay, this will be the courses of action selected, proportion of courses of action selected by player B. And lastly, game value. Game value. Now you do the multiplication of this and this, this and this and first row, or 23 by 92, 46 by 92, 23 by 92 and this, then that proportion multiplied by this column and that proportion multiplied by this column. In every case you will be getting the same value, same sum of the product. So do it just by any way. So 23 by 92 plus 46 by 92 plus 23 into 4. So what that comes, 92 will be in denominator. So 23, that will be making 69 by 92 plus 23 into 4. 23 into 4. 24, 6 and 7. 23 into 7. 161 by 92. Or it can be simplified as well. 4 23 4 the 92 and 7 by 4 will be the game value. 7 by 4 will be the game value. This game didn't have a saddle point, which we forgot to calculate once again. All right, that we must have done in the beginning, right? So saddle point means I will need to find MGG and MPL and then find minimax and maximin. So let us do that just to confirm our answer. Okay, but that essentially must be done as the first process on the given game. So minimum guaranteed gain here we forgot to find minimum guaranteed gain for this row is -3, then for this is 1 and for this is -3 again. So maximum of this is 1 and maximum possible loss is what? 4 here, then 4 here and 6 here. So 4 is minimum of maximum possible loss. So amongst all these, maximin is not equal to minimax. This thing actually is to be done at very beginning of the solution of the game. All right. But one thing is clear here that the game value will be lying between 1 and 4, right? And you see here the game value is in between the range. 7 by 4 means 1 plus 3 by 4, right? So that's how we can use augment method for solving 3 by 3 game. All right. One condition is, however, there that this sum should be equal to this sum. Sum of the determinants here, sum of the augments here for A should be equal to sum of the augments for B. Then only the results given by this are acceptable, right? So there is another method. Now, by now, you must have got fed up of a specific method for various dimension payoff matrix. We had for 2 by 2 arithmetic or algebraic method, for m by 2 or 2 by n, we had method of subgame and graphical method, and for 3 by 3 we are having augment method. How long this will go? Okay, then if you have some specific method for 4 by 4, then 4 by 5, 5 by 6, then it will be frustrating. These are, however, specific methods for specific dimension problem. There exists general method also. Okay, so there are two generalized method. One is simulation method and another is solution of game by simplex method. We'll be seeing both of them now. Okay, simplex simulation method we'll be seeing just now. Okay. So in simulation method, we will be actually playing the game. We will be playing from the side of A as well as from the side of B. Okay, we'll be playing it for some specific number of times, and after that, based on the choices made by player A and player B, will be arriving at the proportion in which each course of action is to be selected, and also game value. But before we solve this game by simulation method, let us first find minimum guaranteed gain and maximum possible loss. So here for this game, minimum in first row is -3, then in second row is 1, and in third row it is -3 again. All right. So I think last time we did a little bit of mistake. So maximin is this one, and maximum possible loss here is 4. All right, here again 4, and here is 6. Minimum of all this maximum possible losses is this 4 or this 4. Okay, so game doesn't have saddle point. Okay, mixed strategies are going to be used. All right. So, but we know that the game value lies between 1 and 4. Okay, we'll be actually playing the game now. Now, the start of the game, you will be, when you decided to play, you may be using any one of these three courses of action, A1, A2, or A3. Let's, for standardization, let's start playing the game by selecting the course of action A1. Now, B may select to play B1 or B2 or B3. Okay, depending upon that, depending upon what is selected by player B, the gains to player A will be decided. Gain to player A will be 4 if player B plays B1 in response to A1. Um, Gain will be 1 if B plays B2 and minus 3 if B plays B3. Okay, all right. Now these are the gains to player A as well as losses to player B. Now B has to make the choice of his course of action, and that he will be making based upon the accumulated losses or accumulated gain. These are the loss values for player B, and B will be selecting that course of action in which he says minimum accumulated loss. So minimum loss is here minus 3. So B player B will be selecting to play B3. Okay. Now depending upon what is chosen by player A, the gains to player A will be minus 3, 6 and minus 2. I am taking the values from here because player B has selected to play B3, and depending upon the choice made by player A, the gains are here. So player A will be selecting to play A2 because he is finding that in selecting A2 he is gaining maximum. So now these three values, loss values to player B will get added to earlier losses. Okay, so you add this to this, and this to this. 3 plus 4, 7. 1 plus 1, 2, and 6 minus 3 is 3. So player B will be finding minimum accumulated loss. So this is minimum. So player B will be playing B2, and now these values will get added to gains made by player A. So 1 minus 3 is minus 2. 1 plus 6, 7. 4 minus 2 is the 2. Alright. So maximum once again is this. Okay, player A will be selecting to play A2, and by doing that this values once again will get added to the accumulated losses to player B. 7 plus 3, 10, and then 2 plus 1, 3, and 6 plus 3, 9. All right, this is this is the minimum value player B will be selecting to play B2. Player B selects its course of action based upon the minimum value here. Okay, and player A will be making his choice based upon maximum value here, right? So these values will get added here. So 1 minus 2 is minus 1, then 8 here, and then 6 here. All right, amongst all this is minimum. 8 is maximum. So player A will be once again playing A2, because of which the losses to player B, this losses will get added to player B the count. So 10 plus 3, 13. Here 4. I'm sorry, I have rounded it earlier, but anyway, that round will be sustained. 6 plus 9, 15. So this is minimum. So player B will be playing B2, and these values will get added here. So 1 minus 1, 0. 8 plus 1, 9. And 6 plus 4, 10. Now this is maximum, right? This is maximum, so these values will get added to this. So 13 minus 3, 10. All right. 13 minus 3, 10. 4 plus 4, 8. And 15 minus 2, 13. So it still is the minimum value. So player B will be playing B2. Now these values will get added here. So 1, 10 and 14. Alright. 1, 10 and 14. Alright. 14. Alright. Then player A will be playing A3, and these values will now get added to these values, making the loss to player B, depending upon the choices made by player B. So it is 7, 10 minus 3, 7, 8 plus 4, 12, and 13 minus 2, 11. All right. So 7 happens to be minimum now. Okay. And player B will be playing B1. This way you have to continue calculating, and manually if you are doing it, you will be doing it 10 times, and if you are doing it on computer, you will be doing it thousands of times. All right. So this value will be added to this one. What is that? 4 plus 1, 5. Then 10 plus 3, 13. And 14 minus 3, 11. All right. Now maximum is this again. All right. Maximum is this again. So just make a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4 more times we will have to do this exercise. All right. These values will get added to this one, making this total to 10, this to 13, and 11 plus 6, 17. Okay, this is again minimum. Okay, these values will get added here. 5 plus 4, 9. 3 plus 13, 16. And 11 minus 3. 11 minus 3 is 8. So 16 is maximum. So again A2 will get played, and values which get added here will be 10 plus 3, 13. 13, then 14 here. 13 plus 1, 14. And 13 plus 1, 14. And 17 plus 6, 23. So 13 still is minimum. Player B will be selecting to play B1, and these values will get added here. All right. 9 plus 4, 13. Then 16 plus 3, 19. And 8 minus 3, 5. Right. So 19 is maximum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 19 is maximum. These values will get added here. So what is that? 13 plus 3 is 16. 14 plus 1, 15. And 23 plus 6, 29. So this is still minimum. This values again getting added here. 14, 13 plus 4, 17. 19 plus 3, 22. And 5 minus 3 is 2. 22 still continues to be maximum. And these values will be added here. Player A will be selecting to play A2, and values getting added. 19. I'm sorry, I think I have made a mistake in previous iteration. I should have taken this 15. I should have taken this 15, not this 16. Okay, I still can correct the mistake. In place of 16, I'll be making the corrections 15. this not there. I'll be cancelling it, just knowing that this was 16. 15 was to be selected, mean course of action B2 was to be selected, and by doing that 13 would have been 14. 13 plus 1 would have been 14. All right. Then 19 plus 1 would have been 20. And then 5 plus 4 would be 9. So still this is our selection. 20 is our selection. Means A2 is still selected. All right. And the values which will be added will be 16 plus 3 9, 15 plus 1 16, 16 plus 3 19, 15 plus 1 16, and 29 plus 6 35. So this is minimum. Okay, but now just count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and lastly this is 10. Okay, I will be adding these values to here, so it will be 15 and then 21 and then 9 plus 4 13. So again this is selected. Okay, but do I need to do the selection here? Do I need to proceed for that? You just make a count, because 10 plays here and 10 plays here would be sufficient. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 10 here, and 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Now I'll be counting how many times course of action A1 was selected. It was not selected at all. A1 was never selected. Okay, and we have not made mistake also. So strategy from our play, strategy for A1, don't select it because we have not selected while we played. A2 was selected 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 times out of 10. 8 times out of 10, because we have played the game for 10 times, out of which 8 times A2 was selected and A3 was selected 2 times, 2 by 10. Okay, what is it for B? B1 was selected 1, 2, 3 times. 3 times. B1 was selected 3 out of 10 times. B2 is selected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 10 times. And B3 is selected 1 out of 10 times. Okay, based upon the way we played, we believe that the game should be played that way only. Okay, but we have played it for very less time, only just 10 times. For getting reliable results, you have to play it for something like 1,000 times, 10,000 times or so. Okay, what is game value? Game value, as we say, that it is average winning or losing over long number of plays. Okay, after playing 10 times, A is winning 21. Okay, and B is losing 16. Okay, so average winning for player A is 2.1. Okay, 21 divided by 10 means 2.1. Okay, 2.1, and average losing for player B is 16 divided by 10, 1.6. So at least we know now, if on the basis of our game which we played for 10 times, that the game value lies between 1.6 to 2.1. Earlier we knew that game value will lie between 1 to 4. We have converged our limit. We have converged that 1 to 4 to 1.6 to 2.1. If we play this game further 14 more times or 100 more times, you will find that that range will continue to converge, and a point will come when you will see that both these values are same. and that impact will be giving you the correct proportion in which the game should be played. This is simulation method, very simple one, and one can believe on this method. Why? Because why? Because you are actually playing. You are not doing much of a mathematics in that, right? So it is more convincing method than any other we have seen so far. Okay, so if the number of rows are any, there be 10 rows or 20 or 2, and there be 10 rows, 20 or 2 or 15 or 16, any number of rows can be there. The method is not going to change, the process is not going to change. So this is a general method for getting the solution to any game. Simulation method, a simple method, right? I hope this is understood. And one last method is remaining, and that is solution of game by simplex method. All right, and that we will be seeing in a special lecture, last lecture on game theory. So we'll stop here, right? Thank you.